In this video, our very first Grand Archive deck tech, we're going to be going over an explosive Crux-focused Wind Lorraine. This is a very solid competitive starting point that you can build right out of your first Lorraine starter deck. What's up everyone, it's Dan with Maindeck, and I am super pumped that we are finally bringing you some Grand Archive deck techs. You can stay tuned and look forward to a number of other Grand Archive deck techs coming this week, next week, and going forward. For our first one, I just thought we would crack into a very basic entry-level, well, I wouldn't say entry-level because this is quite a decent, quite a solid competitive deck, but it is a perfect starting point because Lorraine is one of the simpler, one of the more straightforward decks you can play, and the Wind Lorraine you can build straight out of the starter deck. We're going to go over, there's just a few rares and SRs you might want to look at, and they're not even, some of them aren't even that important to the deck strategy. So this is going to be an excellent starting point if you have either the first edition Lorraine starter deck or if you're getting the Ultra Edition Lorraine starter deck. And I want to, before we jump in, I just want to give a shout out to our patron, Taylor Bow, who's the one who provided this deck list. I have been playing against him, playing this deck a number of times. He's been testing it week after week, just kind of refining it. There are a number of different ways to build Lorraine, but I really liked what he did here because it is just so straightforward and good feeling when you get everything to pop off, and it is also quite flexible. So we're not going to take forever here. Let's jump right into this. I'm going to assume, by the way, there's going to be a deck list down in the description below. If you need to sit down and read through any cards, just go pop open the deck list. You can copy it straight from there. You can read through everything, but just in the interest of time, we're going to go over just the most important stuff here. So of course, we are playing Lorraine on Wind, so we have the full Lorraine level 1, 2, 3, and 4 here with the Spirit of Wind. And in the material deck package, we also have a number of swords. We have Drawn Blade, Sword of Seeking, Grand Crusader's Ring. Now, of course, this, if you're going on a budget, you're going to put in some other sort of draw card here, Life Essence Amulet or something. But yeah, GCR is obviously the one you want if you have the budget for it. We have a Prismatic Edge. We have a Sword of Avarice, Orb of Regret. Awesome card. Don't skip out on this. If you can get a copy of this, make sure you have this. A Majestic Spirit's Crest, and then Warrior's Longsword. And just have a note from Taylor here on Warrior's Longsword. This is actually the card he's going to cut for the Nullifying Lantern when Ultra Edition launches, just as a way to fight against fire decks. So that is there for that. This is pretty much what you expect out of a Lorraine deck. A bunch of weapons, a few card draw options. This is what we need. So what this deck is trying to do, unlike some other Lorraine decks, is this one wants to get to level 3, and it wants to use Spirit Blade Infusion. Sorry, there's the wrong one. Here we go. Spirit Blade Infusion to deal a massive amount of damage. Specifically, the game plan for this deck is actually to materialize like normal to level 2 kind of as quickly as you can. Once you get to level 2, your goal is to stack damage and dunk on a turn using Dungeon Guide or Beseech the Winds. So your Dungeon Guide or Beseech the Winds, which are basically just Dungeon Guides number 5 and 6 in this deck, to get multiple attacks on your opponent and dunk on them. Now, it's important to remember that with anytime you level up your champion in the middle of your turn, you actually awaken your champion as well. That is something that not everyone catches right away, so that's why Beseech the Winds and Dungeon Guide are so critical to this deck. So your goal when playing this deck is really just to, during the first few turns, you're trying to level up to 2, just trying to manage things, maybe put a little bit of pressure on the opponent, but that's not as important. Once you get to level 2, you ideally have a Dungeon Guide or a Beseech the Winds in hand, and some number of Spirit Blade infusions. And, you know, if things are going well for you, you might have Spirit's Blessing or Crux Sight or something to be able to combo a little bit. Crux Sight allowing you to get back these cards like Spirit's Blessing and Spirit Blade Infusion. And what you're doing once you get to that level is you want to smash into your opponent's allies to draw cards on level 2, then awaken and smash into the opponent after playing multiple Spirit Blade Infusions, which are free to play after you've already dealt damage this turn with an attack. So you can just pump that damage up. You get Lorraine. This is playing Crux Knight Lorraine, so you're getting a big pump on your damage as well if you've been able to go through some of your swords. and just deal a lot of damage to your opponent. It's really important in this deck to remember this is a key thing. The Sword of Seeking here is the 2 durability weapon, and you really want to go into this level, this like leveling level 2 to 3 turn, having that Sword of Seeking in play with 2 durability on it. Note that Taylor here chose not to play any weaponsmiths in here, so you don't have ways to get extra durability. So you really want to make sure you're not wasting your 2 durability sword early on. Unless you have some other way to get, you can have your drawn blade out as another option as well. You want to have at least 2 durability available to get those swings, unless you can line something up with some of your other attacks. We of course are running things like Wind Cutter, which is like an attack you can use over and over for extra damage. Hurricane Sweep, which you have to have in there for Lorraine level 2 to punish your opponent if they go wide and you have it. We have Savage Slash for floating memory and doing some extra damage. And then one of the big things in here is there's a little human package with Dungeon Guide, Banner Knight, Swift Recruit, Phalanx Captain, and Tactful Sergeant, as well as Ghost of Pendragon. Actually, I didn't even realize that. That is also a human. So we have a little human package there where the Phalanx Captain can provide a huge buff to them. And the deck just has sort of this is why I said it's a flexible deck. It's got another win con strategy of just going wide with these humans. If the attack damage isn't going to quite get there, because if you can drop a few, if you're drawing just into humans and stuff, you drop a few Tactful Sergeants, they start to get free Phalanx Captains, they start to get free pretty fast, and they pump your board pretty wide. You're already trying to turbo to level 2, so Banner Knight's going to be great there. And then things like Tactful Sergeant and Ghost of Pendragon are just giving you ways to get more cards and kind of keep rolling like that. So that's kind of the core of the deck. You're really just trying to get to level 2. We're playing a bunch of Crux cards, and then once you get to level 2, Dungeon Guide or Beseech the Winds into level 3 on a turn where you can attack them multiple times and dunk for a ton of damage. There's a few other just important points I do want to go over here. Fairy Whispers is an excellent card in this deck. It's a card that you might not necessarily think that is an important card in the Lorraine deck, but in this one in particular, it's here because in the early game, this is a perfect turn 1 play to use a limited number of your resources so you can very selectively banish the cards that aren't important early on. So we talked about this in our tips when you're learning how to play Grand Archive video, but sometimes playing slow in the early game is actually very important, very critical, allowing you to make sure you don't banish important cards like Spirit's Blessing, Spirit Blade, Infusion. When you want to hold on to those, you don't want to lose your the only copy of Dungeon Guide you might see that game. So you can use Fairy Whispers as an early game play that can either just glimpse you away, of the cards you don't care about to try and find. Maybe you haven't found an Infusion yet. Maybe you would be much better off if you could find a Spirit's Blessing. Even if you don't end up drawing something with this, that glimpse is just a very useful thing to have. And late in the game, this can find you Beseech the Winds. It can find you Veiling Breeze. Of course, one of the strongest tech pieces in the game right now, just to not die to things, especially not die to Rydex, but any go wide strategy gets really punished by this. But even the going tall damage strategies, this can buy you just enough life to swing back on the next turn and take them out. So Fairy Whispers, or finding Phalanx Captains too, I should mention, this can find the key components you need to keep going. So it's a very, very nice card. And, again, you're not always going to hit it. You're not always going to get to draw that card with it. But when you do, it's great. And then we have a few just other tech pieces like Zephyr here, allowing you to just get rid of an Interceptor, get rid of a Regalia to slow a Lorraine down in a mirror match or something. It's an all right card. I would say of all the cards in here, so if you're just talking about like upgrading your starter deck into this deck, the cards that are less important to have immediately, less important to the deck itself, are Zephyr, which you can just replace with some other tech piece to bounce something. It's like Zephyr is probably the best one because of its fast speed and its flexibility, but if you just don't want to buy those rares right away, just get Disorienting Winds or something in there. That's okay. You'll be okay with that for now. Ghost of Pendragon, excellent card, but not the most important SR to be hunting down. I would first go after something like Orb of Regret. I would make sure you have your rares that you need, your Spirit Blade, Infusions, and Spirit's Blessings especially. Spirit Blade Ascension, also a super good rare card to have. Not as core to the strategy, but really good for getting out this Prismatic Edge or sort of Avarice to get extra card draw in the late game. So definitely an important one to have as well. And then I would say these Phalanx Captains are probably one of the other most important rares to have, just because this really enables that human side of the deck, that flexible human strategy that allows you to just kind of beat. You can actually win just in the mid game before you even get to combo off if you get really lucky with your humans that you draw. So yeah, that's the general deck idea. There are some cards in here that not everyone, that some other Lorraine decks like to play. Cards like Reclaim. And I just have a note from Bobo that he just found it a little less important to have the Reclaim. The targets weren't very good. You know, I mean, obviously you would love to use Reclaim to bounce a Tactful Sergeant back to your hand and replay it to get value, but the cost on that play is just pretty big. A lot of the times it's just a deck that either doesn't really care that much if the humans die because it's just going to go ahead and do a gigantic attack combo in the next turn anyway. Or it's just kind of awkward to line up keeping that Reclaim up to like protect a Banner Knight or something. Well, a lot of the time you're just going to be dropping these Banner Knights. The Banner Knight's actually only a 2 of. It's not even that important here. You're just going to be dropping these on the turn when you're just going to swing for 1,000,000 damage. Anyway, it's kind of done its job at that point, and you don't really want to be holding up extra resources to protect it when you're just trying to max out your damage on that turn and take them out of the game. So there you guys go. That is a pretty fast deck tech on this Lorraine Wind Crux focused deck, this Infusion Lorraine build. There are many ways to build Lorraine. This is one of them. And if you are just starting out in the game, especially just because of how similar this plays to the actual starter deck, it is a really excellent starting point. And a great list to just try and chase down the cards for, so you can build that and start playing. And then maybe you'll find, maybe you find you want to play like an Spirit Blade Ensoul Lorraine or something, a different focus of Lorraine deck, and that's totally cool. You'll still use a lot of these cards. But I think this is a really excellent starting point, a great first list, a great first deck tech for you guys to check out. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you guys found that an interesting Lorraine deck, and we're going to have a number of other Grand Archive deck techs coming very soon, so stay tuned to the channel. If you are a Grand Archive fan and you're not subscribed, would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button if you did enjoy this and if you do want to see more content, and let us know what you think about this deck or what your favorite version of a Lorraine deck is in the comments down below. We would love to hear from you. So that's going to do it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and we will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching another Maindeck video. Maindeck is sponsored by J-Dub Sports Cards and Gaming. Visit jwwcards.com and by our amazing patrons. Get exclusive content and other cool perks on the Maindeck Patreon. And hey, while you're here, I bet you'd like one of these videos. Go ahead, click one. I know you're gonna love it.